If you're anywhere near the world of data security, you've probably got one huge question looming on the horizon. How in the world are we going to get ready for quantum computers? Well, the answer, it turns out, starts with something really basic, figuring out what you've already got. Let's get into it. So let's just cut right to the chase with the one question that really matters. All that sensitive data you're so carefully encrypting and tucking away today, is it actually safe from the computers of tomorrow? Because here's the thing, this isn't some far-off, distant problem. It has very real implications for you right now.
Okay, so to really get why we need to be moving on this, we first have to understand the threat itself. We need to talk about why the security we've trusted for decades is, well, basically facing an expiration date.
Think about it like this. Right now, our digital world is built on the bedrock of incredibly strong public key encryption. You know the names, RSA, elliptic curved cryptography, ECC. They're amazing. But, and this is a huge but, we're now staring down the barrel of quantum computers that will be powerful enough to just shatter those standards, to literally break them and render them useless. Now, here's what makes this so urgent. It's because of an attack strategy called Harvest Now, Decrypt Later. What this means is that adversaries right now are siphoning up and storing enormous amounts of our encrypted data. They're just stockpiling it, making a bet that in a few years, they'll have a quantum computer that can crack it all wide open. So any data that needs to stay secret for a long time, we're talking national secrets, your company's core intellectual property, personal financial data, all of it is already at risk. So what do we do about it? Where do you even begin? Well, the great news is that pretty much every single post-quantum security roadmap out there starts in the exact same place. It all begins with an inventory. Because, let's be honest, you can't protect what you don't even know you have. So, what exactly do we mean by a cryptographic inventory? Well, think of it like a complete blueprint of your organization's entire crypto landscape. And it's not just about making a list of algorithms. It's about mapping out everything, the libraries that are being used, the keys that are being managed, and the protocols that rely on all of it, across every single one of your applications and systems. Now, you might be thinking, okay, if this is step one, why hasn't everyone already done it? And that's a fair question. The simple answer is that in the real world, this is an incredibly difficult and complex thing to do. So let's unpack why it's so tough to get that complete picture. The place most people start is, unfortunately, the place where things go wrong, the manual approach. You know the drill, sending out surveys to different teams, doing interviews, and then trying to cram all those answers into some massive, unwieldy spreadsheet. It seems logical, but it's a deeply, deeply flawed and honestly a kind of dangerous way to do this. And this right here is the perfect example of the problem. This is from a real-world case where an organization just asked its teams what crypto they were using. And, surprise, they later found a totally forgotten, undocumented legacy process that was chugging along using a weak, outdated algorithm. No one ever mentioned it because, well, no one even remembered it existed. The lesson is crystal clear. If you only ask people, you only find what they remember. And that is never, ever the whole story. And the challenges just keep stacking up. You've got shadow IT, those servers and apps people set up without telling anyone. You've got ancient legacy systems where the documentation is non-existent. So much of our crypto is buried deep inside third-party libraries that we didn't even write. Plus, in big companies, teams work in silos. The network team has no idea what the app dev team is doing. And all of this is happening at a scale that is just mind-bogglingly huge. So, if sending out spreadsheets is a recipe for disaster, how do we actually find everything? Well, the answer isn't some single magic bullet. It's about using a whole combination of automated techniques. Think of it as a detective's toolkit, designed to investigate your systems from every possible angle. The first tool in our kit is static code analysis. This is where we scan your application's actual source code before it's even compiled or run. We're looking for the telltale fingerprints of cryptography, things like calls to specific crypto libraries or known functions. It's a fantastic way to see what's written into the DNA of your software. Okay, but what about what the code actually does when it's running? That's where our next tool, dynamic analysis, comes in. This technique literally watches our applications while they execute. By monitoring them, you can see precisely which cryptographic functions are really being called and used in practice, which is a huge help in figuring out what's important. Our third tool moves us out of the application and onto the network itself. Passive network monitoring tools just sit there and listen to the data flowing between your systems. By watching the traffic, they can spot things like TLS handshakes, telling you exactly which encryption protocols and cipher suites are being used to protect your data as it moves around. And finally, our fourth tool gets right down to the metal. This is system and configuration scanning. It involves looking directly at the servers and workstations themselves, checking the operating system settings, digging through configuration files, and scanning for any installed crypto libraries or components that are just sitting there on the system. So, here is the absolute key takeaway. Not a single one of these tools is enough on its own. They all have blind spots. For example, a network scanner might see an old, weak protocol, but only a code scan can tell you why your application is still using it. You have to have a combination of methods, a multi-layered strategy to put all the pieces of the puzzle together. So be really wary of anyone who tells you their one tool can solve everything. So we've done all this detective work. Where is it all leading? What's the end game? Well, all of this data collection has one single incredibly valuable goal: to build something called a cryptographic bill of materials, or a CBOM. A CBOM is pretty much what it sounds like. You've probably heard of a software bill of materials, an SBOM, which is a list of all the software components in an application. Well, a CBOM is the exact same idea, but for crypto. It's a structured, detailed inventory of every single cryptographic piece and part across your entire organization. It's your master blueprint for security. Let's look at a super simple example of what one of these entries could look like. For just one web app, the CBOM instantly shows us two things. First, it's using RSA 2048 for its web traffic, and it flags that as, yes, it's vulnerable to quantum computers. But it also shows us it's using bcrypt for passwords, which is not vulnerable. See that? Instantly, you know exactly where to focus your efforts. And this is really why that CBOM is the ultimate prize here. Suddenly, you have complete visibility from a single place. It lets you immediately see your biggest risks, like all those instances of RSA and ECC. It becomes proof for your auditors that you know what's going on. And maybe most importantly, it lets you actually plan. You can now accurately estimate the time and money it's going to take to upgrade everything to new quantum-safe standards. I know, this probably sounds like a pretty massive undertaking, and it is. So the question I get asked most often at this point is a really simple one. Okay, this is great, but where on earth do I actually start? Here are your first two moves. It's actually pretty straightforward. Step one is just preparation. Before you can find the crypto, you have to know where to look. That means you need an up-to-date list of all your assets, your systems, your applications, your devices. Then, step two is all about scoping. You don't have to boil the ocean on day one. Decide where the boundaries of your first search will be and prioritize the most critical, highest-risk areas, like your public-facing websites or any system that handles that really sensitive long-term data. Look, what this all comes down to is getting ahead of a truly monumental shift in technology and security. The work you do now, just discovering and cataloging what you have, is going to be the foundation for your organization's security for decades to come. The quantum clock is definitely ticking, so the only real question left is, are you ready to look inside?